Back in home turf. Chilly morning this morning. Lots of water in the river. A lot more than last time I was here. It's April. And I never really say the dates, what day I film. Because I never really share my true exact schedule of when I'm going to be leaving the home, right? Leaving the home alone. Leaving the home on its own, I mean. Let's just say it's April anyway. And that river, particular river, the Falls, a friend of mine who's a lifelong logger fishing guide said that April is usually the hottest month for that river, so I'm going to make sure I go hit that river and try to catch a couple steelhead in a day before I do my 2-day journey up north into northern British Columbia solo. And I'm going to start some huge mineral licks for elk, moose, and deer up there. I'm also going to set up intentionally on some other trails for some hideously huge mountain grizzly bears that I know are there. And I'm going to set up, I'm going to do there what I did last year where that's a place I called the Stand. And I'm going to set just some mild baits, just enough to keep the scent going and keep them. I'm going to hang the baits up high in the air over the trail, but I want to keep them not a horrendous amount of scent, but just enough scent to make the grizzly stop for a little bit and get a good video clip of them on the trail cameras. So I'm going to do that too. I'm going to make some tree stands, which I've never done before, for a particular ridiculously huge whitetail buck that I wouldn't mind putting an effort in this November up there. That's what I'm going to do shortly. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm back. Lots to share, lots of voices coming in, lots of emails coming into different topics. And I've got a note here about sending pictures. Alright, here's a quick note for anybody who has photographs they want to send or videotape of anything. Here's the deal, which obviously I just share what comes in, right? It's no secret. I leave it up to you to decide what you need from it or what you need to leave. And when people send it, if you have photos and you want to send them to the people through me, this is what I strongly suggest you do. Before you send your photo, picture being someone who's never been where you took that photo. Picture being someone who doesn't have a frickin' clue what you saw, and then look at your photograph. And try to be honest with yourself and try to picture what your reaction would be or what you actually are seeing in that photo before you send it to the people. Okay? I think I explained that before. I understand that people will be out in the woods and they'll see something or they've had ongoing experiences with something strange in the woods, and they're going to try to get a picture of it. And they take a picture and they say, see right there, it's right there, I circled it for you, it's right there, that glob. And I understand your excitement and your enthusiasm of getting that glob because, believe me, I've been trying to get video and photographs of numerous wildlife that's hard to do. And I understand how tough it is to get a picture. And sometimes I'll get a picture of a buck or a monster grizzly bear in the timber, and all you get is that quick little blurb of it. And I'm excited because I caught it on the camera, which is hard to do. But it's not even worthy of me sharing that videotape or the photograph with the public because it's shitty quality for public to view, not being with me when I was there. Right? So, please be honest with yourself when you have a photograph to share. Try to be honest with yourself and picture what the general public would do looking at that picture without ever being there any instruction on what it is. Alright? And now, what else? Another thing is photographs and videotapes. Another thing, if you get somewhat of a clear picture of something or videotape of something, especially in snow too, be sure before you share it with the people through me, try to be certain that you go get somebody to go stand where your subject was in the video or the photograph and take a photograph or a video of that as well to send it in with it. Alright? Now I'm sure quite a few people agree with me. For me, I absolutely do not understand why people do not do that automatically. Okay? Because it'll save you possibly a lot of grief in the comment section, and it also will eliminate fuel for a lot of the people who are online surfing away to start shitting on you for saying, yeah, right, it's a hoax, you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. You know what they do. Not that they care what people think or say, but please start going to where the subject was in your video or your photograph and take a picture of somebody standing exactly where it was and from where the video was taken. Okay, that should be standard procedure. Should be. All right. How's that? Excuse me. Also, I don't know why I had a volley of emails flooding in about various social media YouTube channels who are either interested in this topic or they use this topic to promote, right? And it's just my stance on that. A bunch of people ask me why I never go on podcasts, and I've said it before. This isn't about me, all right? This isn't about me. This is about all the people that do what I do out here and more. It's about them. There's a difference, and it's easy to see. There's a lot of channels out there that are using this to promote. They need and they want to get the viewers, and they're doing things that create more viewers. Me? I don't give a shit if you subscribe or not. I've never asked anybody to come here. The door's wide open. I'm all about cutting through the bullshit, leaving what could be possibly bullshit channels who want to self-promote, kick them to the curb, and smash forward, and let's get to the bottom of this frickin' shit show. That's what this channel's about. So a lot of people, I think, well, they've tapered off. I've had lots of offers to be on podcasts, but it does not make sense to me, because as far as I'm concerned, it's not about me. It's about possibly trying to promote that channel more, because they need and want subscribers. They want to sell their shit. I don't, okay? And if there's anything you need to know about me, I can't do much more than what I do. I take you guys along with me and share my passions with you, and I show you as much of the real world as I can. But other than that, I don't need to share my intimate details of my life and what goes on in my home online with a big questionnaire from somebody. Also, what I said before is, if I ever went onto a podcast, it would only be if I could bring all of you with me to speak, because it's not about me. All right. So for me to engage in what possibly could be a shit show of promotion moves with other channels, it bogs me down. It stops moving forward, and it's an absolute waste of time. It's just like what I suggest to all you people: when you engage with human beings that want to demand proof, it stops you dead. It bogs you down in a mud pit. You have to kick them to the curb and smash forward if that's what you're motivated to do, if that's what you want to do. If you want to get past the bullshit, learn, figure out what the frick's going on out there. You have to see clearly through the frickin' bullshit wall and leave the bullshit behind, kick it to the curb. Don't lose your energy there, and don't stop. Don't stop there. It bogs you down. You keep smashing forward. All right? So I hope that made sense, especially for a pile of you people that have emailed me about channels having issues with me. Who gives a shit? Leave them alone in their own little swirl pool of going around in circles. It's got F all. Nothing to do with me, all right? If you got an issue with me, if somebody out there has an issue with me, get a hold of me. Get a hold of me privately. Get a hold of me. We'll figure it out. And that's another thing for you, for your curiosity. A lot of people have been alerting me too. Whoever having issues with me or saying shit about me, just so you know, not one has ever personally tried to get a hold of me. Okay? So, there you go. You got an issue with me? Get a hold of me privately. Square up and look me in the eye and plead your case if you really think I'm doing harm to you. Alright, that's it for my 2 coffee morning. And here's some important voices that need to be heard by all of you. And they came here for all of you to be heard. This is titled PTSD and Why. This is a good personal topic for me, PTSD. I have a lot of firefighter friends. I have a lot of first responder friends, and I have firsthand watched the results of PTSD. I've seen it, heard it, watched it. It's sad, it's frustrating, and I want to share this because I asked earlier, why do people get PTSD from seeing these things? Alright, here we go. I have a gal friend who suffers from PTSD. Her shithead ex-husband used to throw her around like a rag doll physically and emotionally. What a piece of shit. She has talked and shared with me what she has learned from her counselor/psychiatrist. She told her some people can experience an overwhelming emotional or physical encounter or encounters with an offender, and after time has gone by, after the offender was no longer in the person's life, and it is at this point where recovery might occur or slowly begin, or never at all. Some people's minds simply cannot recover after violent or traumatic encounters. It is beyond their mental capacity. This is when the person either does or does not end up with PTSD. So, excuse me, I believe, same scenario, Steve, either after an experience, sudden shock, and caused by one of these beings, the sufferers will either be able to mentally, physically, and spiritually recover from such a fear-based overload, or, Steve, they just cannot. It's as simple as that. And I get it. You cannot understand it because your mind is wired differently. Some people can endure a sudden fear-based encounter, which I believe in hearing your talks and experiences you've had, but you always get over it. It's the not getting over it that you can never, Steve, understand. I also believe some people, and it is a proven trait with how we are mentally and physically wired, that certain humans can literally be scared to death. I believe this is what has happened with so many of Dave Plottis' cases, where the medical examiners come up without a cause of death, or throw the closest reason they can conjure up. And I know it probably isn't a lot of the causes of death, and I know it probably isn't a lot of the causes of death, but I bet some. Well, and I'm just talking, sharing my puzzle pieces. They will make some sense to you as well, or not. God bless you, Steve, and all your family, both two-legged, four-legged. God richly bless all of you. Harry from Mass and the Gem Guy. Harry, appreciate your input on the PTSD, man. Absolutely appreciate it. That's what we need. The helpful input. And here's one more on the same subject. I got a good volley of emails came in titled PTSD after I asked a question, all right? There's one more. This is titled A Firefighter's PTSD Explanation. I'll be familiar with this. Steve, I watched your video and you asked about PTSD and how it affects people when seeing Bigfoot for the first time. Post-traumatic stress disorder comes from any physical or mental trauma similar to situational overload. It's when the brain experiences any traumatic event that stuns that human. A perfect description of an event would be a child seeing a clown for the first time. The paint and clothes are not the same as mom and dad's, or its natural movement, causing a situational overload, where the brain can't process this new information fast enough. Thus, the child becomes terrified and growing up hating or being afraid of clowns. Every living human can experience PTSD with any situation that is out of their normal. Bigfoot/Sabe has many stories behind its facade, boogeyman, night slasher, monster of the woods, and pop culture has done very little to change this. Seeing such a creature in person immediately causes a shock to one's mind and physical being. Once frightened, the human body produces enormous amounts of adrenaline that flushes through the body, causing one to fight or flight. The adrenaline can also cause the body to shut down. Memory gaps can occur. Passing out or even heart attack can occur. PTSD is not only physiological, but neurological. Scans show that area of the brain to be larger in response to whatever traumatic event that person has experienced. It's no joke. PTSD alters the person, changes every facet of their life, as well as the way they look at things in their life forever. I sure hope this helps someone understand a bit about the textbook description of PTSD. May God bless everyone that suffers with it. And there is hope. Keep doing you, Steve. Sincerely, Thomas, Jess, retired firefighter/medic. Dude, absolutely appreciate that input, man. It's going to be helpful for someone. A friend of mine, Captain Fire Department, He was suffering from PTSD, and he actually went to he went specifically to get it dealt with in the city, and he had to stay there. I can't remember if it was 12 or 16 weeks, and it completely helped him, totally, which is good. Unfortunately, I think they did lose one or maybe two people out of that class. They got there a little too late, and they passed on, unfortunately. But anyway, that does help for sure answer my questions and a lot of others when it comes to why people get PTSD from their experience of one of these things. I thought that PTSD came from long periods of the trauma, like being in firefights or being a first responder for years, months on end, instead of just a 5-minute episode out of your entire life. So that's pretty tense when you think about that one. First responders will acquire their PTSD over the course of numerous calls, and numerous people will acquire PTSD from even under 1 minute encounter with one of these intimidating frickin' beings that we are not fully informed about, honestly, right? All right, here we go. Next voice. It walked across the road. Hello, Steve. Hope all is well. Thank you for your channel and your hard work. Here's my story. Please share. My name is Mike, 38 years old, and I'm from New York. My friend David is an experienced bow hunter, and I got into archery because of his influence. After practicing target archery for a few years, David talked me into getting my bow hunting license, and so I did. One day he told me he was taking a 3-day hunting trip to the Adirondack Mountains here in New York and asked me to join him. I told him maybe it's not wise to take a rookie like me on such a long trip since I don't have any experience with wild animals or in the woods. He said he got an uncle who's a very experienced hunter, and he was taking the lead. All he had to do was follow and learn, so I agreed to go. We headed out on a Friday and got there faster than we expected. We decided to go on a 3-hour hike in full hunting gear just so I could get a feel for the challenge ahead. David spent the rest of the day teaching me bushcraft skills and hunting techniques. We got back to the car at dusk and prepared to head out to his uncle's trailer. Off the drive so David could get some rest. He jumped in the back seat and quickly passed out. While driving in the dark, I noticed a tall, large figure on the side of the road, as far as my headlights could reach. I approached with caution, thinking it was perhaps a bear standing or a moose about to cross the road, but as I approached, I noticed it looked very different from any animal I expected to see. I stopped at about 50 yards from it. I noticed it was bipedal, with a heavy coat of fur, and I could see muscle definition from its ape-like anatomy. It walked across the road, excuse me. It walked across the road on 2 legs, turning its head and its shoulder while looking at me. It had iridescent glowing eyes, and it was at least 8 to 10 feet tall. It crossed the road gently, but quickly, and then disappeared into the woods. It happened so fast I couldn't wake up David in time to see it. When I woke him up and told him what I had just witnessed, he laughed at me and told me he was taking over the drive. The next morning I met his Uncle James and his wife Cindy. I told them what happened, and James and David laughed at me frantically. Cindy just looked at me with a curious look. Later on, when I was alone, Cindy came up to me and asked me if the creature turned its shoulder along with its head while it looked back at me, and if it had iridescent eyes. And I replied with a loud, "Yes!" I asked her how did she know that since I had not mentioned that part. She looked at me for a few seconds and with a faint smile told me she just had a dream one time. I get the feeling she knows what I'm talking about, but won't say. No doubt. After all this, I'm still mocked and ridiculed by that story. I guess now I understand why Cindy keeps quiet. Anyways, thank you for your time. Feels good to share. Stay safe, my friend, and feel free to share. Got you, man. We got your back. You're in the safe place now, and a member of the Club of No Return. And so is Cindy, without a doubt. Another to you guys. If I could pass on one little chunk of slight wisdom I might have gained during my crazy lifetime so far, it's to make sure that you recognize, if you can, it'll help you advance in your journey. If you can recognize who fans your flames or who pisses on your fire in life, okay? Meaning, do you surround yourself with people who possibly ridicule you, belittle you, try to one-up you, try to discourage you? Or do you surround yourself with people who fan your flames? They encourage the shit out of you, they got your back, they look you in the eye, they square up, and you know you look at them and what you see is what you get. And what I have learned, I don't know why I surrounded myself for a large part of my life with people who pissed on my fire. And I don't know why. And I stopped doing that. I started to recognize who fans my flames and who pisses on the flames. And you eliminate the people that piss on your flames, and for some reason your whole energy changes. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you surround yourself with people you can't trust to share honestly with, they're going to shit all over you. You might want to somehow, maybe, possibly rethink that relationship. Maybe. All right? Maybe not. Just be aware of that. Surround yourself with people who fan your flames. All right? That'll help you advance in whatever it is you want to get good at, be better at. Now, what do we got? A very tall fisherman and special delivery to Steve. All right? Excuse me. Hey Steve, my nickname is Sunny. We'll go with that, if you don't mind. I've written this comment with paragraph spacing, so don't miss anything. Actually, it saves. Doesn't save the same in my notes. Don't know why. I've had many experiences in my life. My one and only sighting of a Sasquatch was a very brief one when I was on a road trip with my husband, a retired trucker, on his way to Vancouver to make a delivery. We were on the Coquihalla Highway. Ship piles of sightings on the Coke. Taking in the beauty that is British Columbia as the sun was setting, I looked past my husband, who was driving, and down into the river that follows the highway. There I spotted a very tall fisherman, or so I thought. At least that was the first thought that came to my mind. As this individual was standing on the edge of the riverbank, excuse me, it was only when I had driven by that I started understanding that it was too tall to be human. He wasn't wearing fisherman's clothes or any for that matter. Oh my God, I just saw a Sasquatch. My husband said he wasn't surprised. There have been sightings in that area for years. He reminded me that truckers see so much more than drivers of other vehicles on the road because they sit higher in their rigs. And because of that, truckers are the first ones to call for help if they see tracks going off the highway or a vehicle down an embankment. You just never know who may be in trouble. Steve, there's another reason that I write you today. Please bear with me. I'm fulfilling someone's dying wish. A while back, I was watching your Listen to This One from Afghanistan video, and I read the comments, as I often do, because there are always stories there of interest. Well, I met a very beautiful, special young lady calling herself Lass, L-A-S, Lass, who told the community that she was in hospice care and didn't know how much time she had left in her words, quote, "Man, thank you. I'm in hospice care without a lot of time left, and I just cannot thank you enough for your channel." Oh shit. It's been my best friend these last couple of weeks, or maybe it's been days. Time is funny for me now. Before I was so sick, the forest and the ocean, basically anything natural and as far away from civilization as possible, was where I felt closest to myself and most at home. Your videos take me there, and they also bring me stories that I can relate to. I too have had my own experiences. I think it's hard to spend practically years alone in deep woods without walking away with a few stories to tell. So glad to have found this to keep me company in my final days and to see the places that you bring and to see the places that bring me such joy. Again, thank you and blessing to everyone here. Steve, this community responded and I communicated with her. 440 strong. I include, in part to be brief, only some of her comments below. The community sent her prayers, talked of miracles, and generally kept her company. There were a few jerks who were being unkind, and Steve, you would have been proud of how she responded to them with compassion, forgiveness, and gave them a little bit of what for too, well. She came back with, excuse me, quote, "I am in tears and speechless. I want to reply individually to each of you, but I have to use a special keyboard because of my limitations, and it takes it makes so many mistakes that when I make long comments, it takes hours to edit them back to making sense. I have loved the community here and knew it was full of loving people. I just had no idea that my comment would actually be read, let alone responded to so quickly and with such compassion. My heart is so full it could burst, and I can't explain to you what it means to have so much support. I spent many days making cards for people while watching these videos, as I did so because it not only passes the time, but it brings me joy. I know what it feels like to get an unexpected act of kindness when you least expect it, like right now, and how much it heals the heart. This channel helps fuel my energy to push forward with my cards, and you guys just refilled my gas tank, so to speak. I know when my time comes and I get to see the mosaic and the full picture that I will smile, and I know that the pain and the suffering is temporary. I'll be home again. I know how cheesy all this sounds, and I don't care. One thing when you're dying is you stop caring about what other people think about you. I wish I'd stopped caring sooner. Honest to God, all of your comments are going to be with me. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, will send back to you the love and compassion and grace you showed me today. We're all in this together. It's no accident. And anyone who thinks it is going to be quite surprised when they wake up realizing they are eternal. Wow. She went on to comfort others on the chat, in part to be brief. Quote, "I'm so glad you're able to pick up on my peace because I am at peace with it. As you find yourself pondering your mortality more and more, think of death as a transition, one just like birth, because they are essentially one and the same. I hope reframing it in that way helps you feel even more peace of mind, and it is not to be uncertainty looming over your head. Sorry. And if not, be this uncertainty looming over your head. Blessings and thank you for your support." She shared her feelings and words of wisdom with this community. Quote, "I want to share so badly. All I can say is being human is like trying to see the entire cosmos with a flashlight. It's narrow and limited, but we hold the capacity to flip on the lights and illuminate and see it all. I've caught tiny glimpses, and even those almost broke my fragile mind. Be open to your experience and practice listening to your intuition and not your fifth senses." And she went on to, quote, "Grateful to have been on here at the same time as you guys. This community reflects the potential of our hearts. Look forward to seeing you there one day," end quote. And another quote, I never in my life have had such an outpouring of love and support, even from the support groups of people with my diagnosis. I'm so overwhelmed and humbled, and it has breathed life into me, the amount of compassion and love given to me here by people who are strangers, but yet feel like family. Thank you so much. Blessings to you. Here's another one. I wish and hope with all my heart that Steve sees this thread and he can see the community he has cultivated. The amount of love and compassion shared here for the one person who reached out to make a comment, just a little old me saying, "Thank you for giving me a safe space in the outdoors again." And then hundreds of comments and support. He built this, he made this. I hope he sees this. Blessings and love to you. Steve, an amazing young woman. I think the community was blessed to have her with us, if only for a short time, as I believe she has passed. We haven't seen another text from her in quite a while, so I'd say it is safe to say that she is watching from the other side. I hope that you don't mind making sure that her wish and hope with all of her heart was that you, Steve, see this thread. Thank you for your patience, Steve. All the best. Thus, this one's for you, Lost Sonny. Well, there you go. It has been seen and read and shared. And no, I did not see that in the comment section. As you know, I rarely go there. And what a kind thing for all of us to see. But I agree, obviously, I mean, for me, I hope she made her transition to the other side smoothly. And I'd put money on it. She's passed by now. I'm sure she's still here with us watching. Probably knows a lot more than us now. But we'll all be with her and others eventually, right? That was quite the volley of input and kindness, wasn't it? And it just does go to show what kind of community that all of you have created here. The amount of kind people that come here is a little overwhelming. I mean, I may not see the comment sections, but I see the emails. And the amount of emails that come pouring in is overwhelming, and 99.9% kind and caring and thinking about everybody, right? And not themselves. So, let's remember that special woman and her journey and her kindness, her honesty in coming here and sharing with all of you, and bravo to all of you who supported her in that comment thread. 440 comments, I believe, is what you're getting across. Well, there you go. Alright, well, I guarantee I'll be thinking about that woman a lot today, in the days coming. Alright, let's get another voice heard while I'm here. We'll carry on. A kind woman. What a kind thing for you to do, sending that email in to me. Make sure I got it. I got it. And share it, and everybody else got it too. Alright, here we go. Excuse me. Sighting by Hunter and. Steve, I've now watched several of your videos, and I now feel comfortable enough to trust you and your viewers with my encounter that I have not shared with anyone other than those involved and those that were there on this particular hunt. A quick background on me: I was raised very religious on what you might call a small Maine country farm. After high school, I went to the military, where I've proudly served as a member in the U.S. Army as a ranger for several years. When I finally returned home, I was no longer as interested in deer hunting as I was while growing up as a child. However, with the prompting of my brother, George, and my friends, and their crazy stories of deer being found mutilated in the woods across the cemetery road, which is directly across from our old family farm, I recalled the feeling of being watched as a child while playing in this forest, as well as finding what I thought was old Indian teepees, I guess you could call them. I would find fallen trees stacked on top of each other and balanced up on each other. It mystified me. When I asked my father about these, he simply and calmly told me to stay clear of those areas. Stay well clear of them. I took those words to heart. But now I'm hearing of these deer heads and skulls being found, while the bodies are missing. Steve, as you well know, the forest has a way of cleaning itself in little time, in natural ways. So to find a deer head indicated to me that this must have been a fairly fresh kill. And it's beyond me what in the hell was living out there that decapitated the deer. It was a cold Saturday morning, November 91, that I found myself sitting at my favorite old spot on a choke point between a cliff face and a creek, and I could look down in this wide area of oak trees from a hill that sat up 50 feet above this area. Even if you see no game, it is a very serene scene. I was getting very cold and decided to stand up and kind of shake a bit to warm myself up. It's at this time that I noticed just how quiet it had become, and there was always something scurrying around. Nothing. Excuse me. Then I felt uncomfortable, like someone was watching me. I started thinking it was my brother or someone else from our hunting party playing a game, but it just did not feel right. We were all going to meet in the field across from where we were hunting on Dad's property at 10 a.m. for coffee. But as uncomfortable as I was feeling, I decided I was going to get headed out there right then. I hadn't gone 100 yards when I jumped what I thought was a huge black bear. It was off a further 200 yards away down by the creek. There was a lot of blueberry bushes in that area and other cover, so I hadn't got a clear look at it. But something was very odd about it. It was then that I heard the two different rifles fire within seconds apart, and my two-way squelch, and then my cousin's yell, "It's heading your way, Randy." But they were unaware. I had already headed back to the trucks. I turned and headed back in that direction, but barely caught a flash of now upright what had to be a 9, maybe 10 foot tall Sasquatch. I immediately stopped and turned to head back toward the trucks when I heard the loudest guttural scream I've ever heard. It seemed to have shaken the internals of my body. I always prided myself on bravery and courage, but I started to run as fast as I could, for Dad's field, and it screamed again. But it seemed to have gained a great deal of ground on me now, and it was now northwest of me, and I estimated it would overtake me before I made it out. So I stopped and I climbed a tree and called everyone to come and help me. As this thing screamed a third and final time, I knew it was right under my tree somewhere, but I couldn't see it from the side of the tree I was on. Ugh. I whispered into the mic for everyone to stay back. It was then that I heard the garbling communication between what I could now see was a huge Sasquatch and another that had just showed up from what seemed like out of nowhere. I found out it was my brother George that started firing his rifle to draw attention from me. As they turned and took off running, I started down from the tree, knowing if they circled back, I did not want to be anywhere near that damn tree. When we all met back at the truck, I told them someone had injured one of these creatures severely, as I could clearly make out blood on the area where the neck should have been. Oh, no way. But from my view, it looked like the huge head went directly into 4-foot wide shoulders. We discussed if we should call the main station game wardens, I got this bright. When it's bright out, I get nothing but reflections on the screen. It screws me up, you guys, sorry. We discussed if we should call the main state game wardens, but then what the hell do we say? Then we discussed if it was even safe to leave an injured animal like that in the forest. Will it seek revenge against innocent people? My arguments went on the rest of the morning into the early afternoon. Then I noticed my cousin that fired the shot that did the most damage had now broke into his after-hunt alcohol stash and was nervously pounding down 12-ounce can after can. It was then that I called the warden to see what needed to be done. He came out, he took a report, assured us these creatures normally take care of their own. I'm still not clear on what he meant by that, or if he was just trying to get out of there. He did clearly believe us, considering there was 9 of us with the same story, and 5 of us seen the Sasquatch while we all heard the 3 screams. I'm not saying I'll never hunt again, but I'm saying it damn sure won't be in that forest. Holy shit, that's a holy shit story. And that's the end of it. Sorry if I butchered it all, but... Alright, now the questions are gonna come frickin' piling to the minds of everybody on me. First off, would your cousin be interested in sharing exactly what he saw and what went down and what he saw in his scope when he pulled the trigger? What happened on impact? What was going down to even make him feel compelled to pull the trigger and squeeze off on it? What did they look like? What was the reaction like? What a holy shit story, right? What did you see? What exactly did you see? A description, you know? I don't know when this was emailed into me, but I'll tell you what, I got a whole pile of questions that I could rifle at you with that crazy ass experience. Wow. Got a pile of blood. So obviously it sounds like your cousin went for a headshot. Holy shit. Alright, man, so email me back. And if you can, see if your cousin wants to share with you, or if, I imagine he probably already did, especially if 5 of you seen it, so he's not alone, right? So he would have the confidence to share what the hell went down. Wow. Unreal. Alright, let's get one more out, and then I'm going to head back. Got a whole pile of stuff to do, as usual. I only recently just got home from my coastal mountain trip. A crazy story. This is titled Almost 50 Years. Steve, hey brother, my name is Flint Farmer, and I pray you're doing well. You can use my name, and I hope my story helps someone who might be listening. Let's get into, I reckon. I'm from Indiana. We have a great deal of Sasquatch activity across the state. More than most people realize, I believe. I was 10 years old, and it was the winter of '76. My brother and I were walking in an empty cornfield behind the woods on our property towards another woods and creek about a quarter-mile away. It was cold outside, and a light snow covered the ground. It was rough walking because the fields had been plowed under in the fall, but we were on an adventure of sorts and were determined to reach the creek. As we approached the wooded area that surrounded the creek, we noticed a large set of footprints, bare footprints, and they were enormous. First we found one, then another, so we followed them. As I looked back, the stride was massive, and the prints were deep and around 18 inches in length. We were young and really didn't realize the magnitude of what we were seeing. We continued to follow the prints to the creek and up the other side, which had about a 10-foot embankment. When we reached the top of the embankment, nothing could prepare us for what we saw. What we found were 2 dead, full-size cows. They had been crudely gutted and their organs removed. What we figured out was their necks had been broken, twisted to the point they were pointing the wrong direction. We were petrified. My brother was crying and begging me to leave. I looked and could only find one set of prints. The ones we had followed there. The run/walk home seemed like an eternity. We hesitated to tell Dad because we really weren't supposed to be back there, but I needed to let him know. He wasn't mad, but seriously concerned. I remember him calling someone in a position of authority. There was a large number of people who came. Some were police, but most were men in suits. I remember them burning the cows in a large fire. And after all these years, I have never gotten an explanation. My father was long since passed, and my brother has no memory of that day. There were many sightings around that time in our area, but most weren't taken seriously. I've never got an explanation about what happened that day, and my father just never wanted to talk about it because he didn't fully understand it either. I found out years later that he had his own Sasquatch encounter while hunting in Kentucky, but that's for another time. Fast forward to '93, my buddy and I had been dove hunting one late fall afternoon. It was late in the season, we were the only ones in the field. We were at Missesanawa, okay? State Game Reserve, which has DNR managed fields for hunting. It's a massive area with a reservoir and a dam and acres of wooded areas. We had parked my late '80s Chev along a dirt lane which ran between the field areas and a 10-foot ravine up into the woods. We were about 100 feet from the car and talking about the hunt when all of a sudden my buddy froze. I turned and said, "What's wrong, brother?" He couldn't speak. I immediately looked into the direction he was looking, and walking right in front of us was an enormous Sasquatch. The feeling was indescribable. It was fight or flight, but without response. I thought I was going to explode. I couldn't move, but I wasn't afraid. I was in absolute awe. The Sasquatch was a male and extremely large, but proportional. I'm using my car as a size reference. As he walked down the lane, he seemed to glide, never locking his knees. They were always bent. His hair was a silverish brown with hints of light browns and reds. His skin was brown and leathered. I couldn't see his ears, but his head was a bit conical, but not extreme. You couldn't see his neck. The hair from the head to shoulders seemed to just flow together. He had turned and looked at us briefly, but without expression, like, "Yeah, I see you, LOL." As he walked behind the car, this is where I get the size. His waist was above the roof of the car, which is 5 foot. So I'm guessing he was at least 9 feet tall. His chest from front to back was as thick as the car door was wide. He had to weigh between 800 to 1,000 pounds. He never made a sound. He turned at the front of the car and shot down the ravine and then simply vanished into the forest. Now this whole time we were holding 12-gauge shotguns, and never once did it occur to me to shoot. Never. My buddy has since passed, but it altered him in a bad way. He was a former Green Beret and one of the toughest men I've ever known, and I'm in the business of knowing tough guys. He would never talk about the experience. I would get angry if I ever brought it up. Me, on the other hand, had the opposite effect. I wanted to know everything I could about these beings, and why don't we know more? Same team I've spent decades searching for the truth. I'm so thankful to find your channel. You allow people to tell their stories without judgment. A platform for all comers. Thanks, Steve, for a job well done. I have a private research area now and family-owned land. It's in the middle of 400 acres with only one access point to prevent human contamination. We have a family of 4 Sasquatch living there this year and have made great progress in our interactions. My 7-year-old grandson and I work together on this. I'm teaching him how to use his instincts and his senses, to interact with nature and to respect it and what lives there. That includes the Sasquatch people. They are people. I have a great deal more to share, but wanted to give some background. When I saw the 9-foot, 800-pound Sasquatch, it answered the question I had since childhood of what could break the necks of 2 full-grown cows. I appreciate you, Scott Carpenter, and Dave Plattis, are doing. I appreciate all you, Scott Carpenter, and Dave Plattis are doing to bring the truth to the masses. Much respect, my brother. I love the Canadian truckers. I just got another 30-day ban on Facebook. I've been banned off and on for almost 2 years for bringing up truth to people. So I'm with you, brother. Use my name respectfully, Flint Farmer. Flint, thank you. Thank you for your share. It means a lot to me and a lot of other people. And you obviously know by now to, if that's what you're doing, you're on somebody's private property, you better keep that under your lid, right? And I've had a law enforcement officer email me about sharing the exact same scenario with somebody who's not so, I do not see as very productive in this topic for the people. And next thing you know, the entire property was invaded by a bunch of pricks. So keep that information to yourself, man. Guard it if that's what you're trying to do. And make sure you do email us again and share more. Share whatever you got. Share whatever you got that can help the people, all right? So that's what this place is about. For all you newcomers, just so you know, I'm not an entertainer. I'm not a professional reader. I'm not here to entertain anybody. I am here for the people who email in, and I'm here for the people who need to hear these emails to help them deal with the shit-eating experience that they had slapped in their face and they didn't ask for. That's all this channel's about. All right? This place isn't to promote any single person ever. And that's just the way it is. It's an open door. Everybody's welcome, and everybody's treated with respect. So, there you go. That's one hell of an email, one hell of a detailed description, right? And a great example of how it affects people. Isn't it amazing? It's amazing. But I guess it's amazing how we are all, I think we are all chemically, we have different chemical makeups inside of us. Some people have the right amount, some people are lacking some chemicals, and I think that's what possibly causes us to have the various different reactions, right? I know people that can frickin' pick me up and break me in two that have seen these things. I know them personally, and they don't want to talk about it. And if I push them to talk about it, they get real pissed off with me. And then there's other people who do what a lot of people do. They can't wait to form a group, a Facebook social media group, make us t-shirts and hoodies to promote it. And we got to do this. We got to make us these groups and get the people together. And then they just go at it balls to the wall and eat, live, and breathe Bigfoot / Sasquatch, right? Which is fine. But this channel is about plowing through all the bullshit. We've had enough of the bullshit. We've had enough. The cat's out of the bag. Now let's move forward and find out why the F we're being lied to. Why? And what the hell's going on? And we're making big progress. So I think Edgar's possibly still on holiday. I've left him alone. And his colleagues who are going to share with us more soon. And there's a couple other contacts we have that I kind of forgot about for a little bit. I remember we have another contact who has claimed to have been spent years in the position of doing cleanup when it comes to these beings. And that person promised to hook up with me in the spring, I believe. And also had another female colleague who was professionally directly linked and involved in these episodes. And he has promised to share all in person. So we do have a handful of people who have been harboring a lot of first-hand information from these beings, and they're getting that point. They are getting to the point in life where they decide it's just time. It's time to share what they got. And that's a quote, too. So, haven't forgot, we're just patiently sitting here waiting, and in the meantime, we're getting everybody heard. There you go. There's my caffeine-loaded morning go in front of the camera. Nobody threw anything at me this morning. So I gotta go home. For all you who possibly do not follow what's going on the globe, it was months before the current war in the Ukraine came out. I knew the war was coming without a doubt, and I knew for a fact it was coming after the Olympics. And I gave as much pre-warning as I could to numerous friends of mine who all have big farms and ranches to get their fuel topped up. And sure enough, they got their fuel topped up and more just in time before our fuel went bonkers. Now, the same people we are all getting subtle but direct hints there is going to be a global famine. All right? So, I do not follow mainstream news, but I do follow a handful of people who I believe to be sincere and honest and straight up and connected with facts. So, just so you know, today I am going to go pre-buy all of my feed for our meat chickens and turkeys right now, because I do know for a fact fertilizer I think quadrupled this year, and our fuel's damn near double. So it's going to be trickling down the line. So I'm going to try to get a jump on that now, because anything farm related is going to be right off the frickin' charts. All right? So passing that on to all you. If you have something you can do now to prepare and save some money ahead of time, now's the time to do it. There's been enough hints in our faces that there's going to be some severe food shortages, right? Anyway, that's where I gotta go to. That's what I have to go to next. And then I'll be back, and I'll be sharing more voices, without a doubt.